to Sarah to a 5-minute heads up, mate.
I'm watching the clock, don't you worry.
Fair enough.
My name's Sarah and I'm an addict.
Hi, Sarah.
So I was asked to step in and do this share. And I do feel I haven't done a share in a while, so I can feel my heart racing a little bit. And I don't find it particularly easy to share on this step. Most of the other steps I'm all right with, but for some reason I find this one quite difficult. So I'll do my best and I'll just be honest with all of you. So, but firstly, I want to say, right, so I really, truthfully, didn't want to go to a meeting today. I really didn't want to be in any meeting. In fact, I didn't want to be anywhere. I didn't want to be indoors, but I didn't want to go out. You know, I've been in a funny headspace. But I think, you know, before I go in to talk about step 7, how I know this program works is because despite what I was thinking, I'm still sitting here being as humble as I probably can be and trying to carry a message of hope or something to somebody else, despite myself, because trust me, I just didn't want to come and do a meeting. So this does work. This does work. I'm clean today. I haven't used for a number of years. And I love that reading, actually. It's really helpful because I'm still imperfect and I still make mistakes and my character defects still come up and I still ask for help and all of the stuff that reading spoke about. And that's right, because I'm human. Like, sometimes I think I can forget, you know, that I'm human. So, just for a little bit of identification for any newcomers in the meeting, firstly, I just want to say welcome. And, you know, if there's even one little sentence that you take out of what I say today, I hope that will help in the smallest way. So, as I said, I've been clean for a number of years. I've been coming to Narcotics Anonymous from around the year 2000. That's when I first came to my first NA, like around, I can't even remember, it was around then. And to get to talk about step 7, I suppose I need to talk a little bit about how I got here. And also because that makes it easier for me to not talk about step 7 for some, because I find it hard. So when I walked into my first NA meeting, I didn't have a clue what was going on. I'd tried everything else and nothing else worked. I'd been to psychiatrists. I'd tried everything. I tried absolutely everything. GP, psychiatrist, all the medical professionals, and this is and still is the only thing that's worked for me. I'm not saying that other organisations don't work, but this is what really worked for me. And I was completely broken when I came in here. I was totally broken. I'd hurt a lot of people. I didn't realise it, actually. I carried a lot of resentments, and I was still very good at blaming other people for all the behaviours and stuff that I had. But what I learned in sort of like the first few years in recovery was there's some things that I needed to do to get clean and to stay clean. And the first thing I needed to do was to stop using drugs. Now that sounds very simple. And it took someone, actually, it took for someone else to say to me, Sarah, to stop using drugs, you need to stop using drugs for that to land. And I know that might sound really stupid, but I needed to hear it like that. So then I began this process, this sort of journey of recovery, which was attend as many meetings as you can, do 90 meetings in 90 days, listen out for similarities and try not to focus on differences, find yourself a home group, look out for someone that's called a sponsor, which, you know, all the leaflets are there, and just get involved and give yourself a chance. Just give yourself a break. And then start looking, I don't know what side the steps are, and start looking at the steps. So in order to get to step 7, you need to work 1 to 6 first. There's no shortcut, although I'd love it if there was. and each step has got such a good meaning to it. It's about, you know, all of it is about looking at myself in recovery, in addiction, how I can change and how I can move forward and make things better, have a better life. So the reading was talking about, there was a few things in there actually. So to speak about step 7, I needed to identify what my defects of character was. Now I couldn't really work that out, and I needed somebody else to help me with that, because what I was very good at doing was looking at everybody else's, I wouldn't say bad points, but I was really able to see if I thought someone was being selfish, or if I thought everyone, like that person, was being self-centered, or if I thought that they were being greedy, or if I thought that they were acting jealous, or if they were envious, and all of these things. So I had to sit down and look at those parts of myself before I could move on and look at the step 7 stuff, which is about the shortcomings. And I spoke, I had a conversation with another member of recovery this morning about, you know, I find this hard to sort of focus on this topic and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, in a nutshell, step 7 and shortcomings for me, so I will have a defect, and the way I react and respond to that defect is my shortcoming. So for example, a big example, because I'm here today to sort of, you know, reverse that. I didn't want to come to the meeting today because I was in a bit of self-pity. I was a bit wallowing at home. I was feeling very lazy. There was a bit of sloth going on, like I couldn't be asked to get up and do anything. And if I didn't come to the meeting, if I'm not sitting here sharing to you today and being part of service, then I would have been acting, you know, the shortcoming would have been that. It would have been stay in that self, in that pity, in the misery of the day, rather than follow it through with an action. So the action is, I'm here today doing what I'm doing. I was going to say what I do best, but it's not actually. So that's an example, and that's the only way I can make it sound as easy as. I have to break things down. They need to be simple understanding for me. My shortcoming is the reaction to the defect. And the reading and what step 7's all about as well is humility. So when I first started looking at humility, like a lot of other words and language in NA, I didn't understand a lot of the stuff that was being said in here. I came from North London, I came from Islington, you know, Irish mother, Cockney dad. I didn't know who I was. I was just like, I lived in Ireland half my life, I lived in England. There was a lot of navigating my way through, and very good at being a chameleon actually and fitting in. And I didn't understand the language. So words like humility, I actually had a physical dictionary, because years ago then we had physical dictionaries. We didn't have I didn't have a phone like that anyway, I don't know about anyone else. So I had to look at the words, because to me, I'd always seen humility as humiliation. I never really understood what it meant. I always thought it meant, you know, you're humiliating yourself. And just with that word, you know, it just goes downhill very, very quickly, because then I go into like, I'm really ashamed of myself, and then it just gets really dark quite quickly. So I had to look at words like humility and being humble and what they actually meant in the dictionary for me to understand them. And also I had to give myself a break, because, you know, part of my journey of recovery is learning that I am the world's worst critic of myself. Nobody in this room and in this world can criticise me, better than I can do myself. Nobody. Honest to God, the noise that can go on up here can be really bad. So finding humility, and also people have different ways of doing things, and, you know, we use the language God and words like that in here. and some people pray, and some people talk to somebody else, and some people do, everyone finds their own way to do it. For me, it was a case of having to get down on my knees and pray for those things to be removed. I had to follow this through with an action, because I didn't want to be carrying these defects around all the time, and I didn't want to be acting on them. It's not pretty. It's not a pretty sight, because if my life is so different now to how it was. I would react to every single thing that you would say when I was using. So you could say something to me, but I would hear something completely different, and I would react. Because you would have touched on something, not you personally, but someone could have touched on something in me that made me feel ashamed of myself, or made me angry, or made me, all of the things that I'm not good enough, my self-worth, and all of these things where I'll just lash out, bottom line. I'd be very angry, or I'd go to the other extreme of that, which would be I'd become very withdrawn, very isolated, and I'd have this internal anger, which I'd only turn on myself then. Going back to no one else can criticise me better than I can do myself, nobody. So this programme was about looking at this is the programme, the step, was about finding humility and coming to accept that these parts of me that I have are there, but they're part of me, but there's also some really good stuff as well. I can be really kind, I can be really loving, I can be generous, I can be honest, I can be humble, I can, as well as, there's all these lovely good things here, as well as when my daughter, because this is what's really going on at the moment, when my daughter is giving me a hard time, I go straight to, you're not a good mum, you don't do enough. You do, the noise can become quite loud quite quickly. And I have to remind myself, and I have to talk to other people in here and outside of here, that I'm doing the best that I can on each given day. And I'm never ever going to be perfect. No matter how hard I strive for it, I'm never going to be perfect. But what I do have is a level of understanding, and I have knowledge about this stuff. That doesn't mean that when she says things to me sometimes, because she's a teenager, that I want to... I'm being recorded, aren't I? It doesn't mean that I don't want to really react, because what's been happening lately is I am raging and I don't know what to do with it. And so the life stuff can be quite challenging. But the beauty about this programme and about being here and about the things that I've learnt is sometimes I can step in the ring, and sometimes I think you've got a choice here, step out. You can step in the ring, or you can step out and try and process this, what's going on for her, what's going on for you, have it, and just create a bit of space in the middle to try and work it all out. Sometimes I do it really well, and sometimes I do it terribly. Do you know what I mean? And I'll really, really react like I did on Thursday, and so did she, and we had a screaming, blazing row. So I'm kind of drying up with this stuff now, and I've talked for nearly 15 minutes. I've been waiting for it to get to 1:30. I'm done. It's not an easy step personally for me to talk about, but I've tried to explain it the best way I can. These are my defects. My response to it is my shortcoming. I have to put a bit of work in so that I don't do it, and also I have to find the good parts of myself that are important. Because I can tell you something for nothing now. When I first walked into NA, I always walked with my head down. I avoided eye contact. I had so much shame. I'd hurt my family. I'd hurt my son. I couldn't stop using it. I couldn't. Bottom line was, I could not do this on my own. I tried. Well, I don't think I actually tried. I think what I did was I'd stop using one drug and then I'd use a different one, because I'd think, oh, this one's getting a bit much now, let me try that. I mean, that was my way of trying. That was all I knew. I didn't know about recovery and I didn't know about NA and all of that stuff. I didn't know. I was lucky enough that someone told me about NA and brought me to my first meeting. I'd never heard of it. I'd heard of treatment centres and all of that stuff, but I'd never heard about NA. So yeah, I practice this stuff as best as I can on any given day. My shortcomings still pop up, and what I do is I pray. I'll just ask for it to be removed. And what it does as well, actually, is when I am more accepting of myself, I'm much more accepting of all of you. And I think I've shared this in this meeting or in another meeting actually. I can remember doing my step 6 and my step 7 and going into a meeting. I'd read it all out. And I went into a meeting in King's Cross. And there was a woman that used to go to this meeting that used to just really get on my nerves. And she wasn't even doing nothing. It was just her. She just used to, I don't know what it was about her. It probably was all the things in her that I didn't like about myself actually. Well, yeah, actually, that was the answer. And I remember doing the 6 and doing the 7 and walking into that meeting and seeing her in there, and it was the first time ever that I felt equal to everybody in the room. I didn't feel better than, and I didn't feel less than. And I saw her, and I thought, oh, she's all right. The problem was never her. The problem was me. The problem was always me. But if I don't look at these parts of myself, I can't change them. You know, and the reading did say something about, I feel like I'm on a roll now. The reading did say something about when people point them out. I think when people point them out in recovery, it's very different to when people point them out outside. Because it's coming from a loving place. And it's not coming from a place, well, it depends. It's not coming from a place of, you know, this and this. Mostly, it's from a sponsor or, a conversation with a sponsee or a close friend in recovery who is kind enough to tell you the truth. Because my friends are people that tell me the truth, not what I want to hear. They're the people I want in my life. I want people to be straight with me and go, I don't like what you did. Well, that's my immediate reaction. Oh well. But that's my defence. I just have a defence all the time. I'll get very defensive. But then I'll process it and think, no, actually, that's not very nice. And then I'll work around it, and then I'll try and make things better. And as well as that, I don't use. So, yeah, what can I say? I'm ready to go, bing. So yeah, it was helpful having the reading. I'm really grateful to be here. And this programme does work. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. I'd have given up a long time ago. Yeah, so thank you for letting me share.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you very much.